What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today, we're going to be recapping day 2 of the digital dailies for BBCan11. Now, listen, I don't think this video is going to be that long. I'm going to be straight up with you. But there will probably be a little bit of a rant towards the end of this, so you're going to want to stick out with that. First, right off the bat, things we know for sure, because a lot of what I'm going to be telling you is guesswork and me trying to read between the lines of what a lot of these house guests are saying. But things we know absolute for certain. Dan is nominated. We had that idea from the first digital daily. It seemed like he was comfortable going on the block, wasn't too worried about it. Anika is also nominated. That means that our 3 nominees going into the veto competition, Anika, Dan, and Renee, since she came in dead last. We also know Claudia won the exemption, the Bel Air insurance protection, whatever stuff that is. Interesting, because I think a lot of people were thinking it was going to be Jonathan, maybe Kuzi, because she's one of the strong fan favorites right now. Though I'll tell you what, if you've been watching these dailies, you might not be a fan of her anymore. And Claudia was kind of like out of nowhere, but then she's also from Prince Edward Island. That's, on that East Coast. It's kind of Newfie enough. They come out strong voting for their people. It's kind of just been a constant thing in Big Brother that if you're from Newfoundland, you're probably winning a vote. So Claudia, I guess, is Newfie enough where she counted in on that. As far as who the actual target is, right? We know that Santina nominated Anika and Dan. Who's she targeting? You got me. Everybody's telling both of them that they're safe. It seems like Renee's not worried too much. It seems like Dan was fine with going on the block, so he's not worried too much. Anika maybe seems like the most shaky one. And if I had to guess that the nom stayed the same, it would probably be Anika who was voted out. But I think the plan might actually be to backdoor JM. We talked about JM kind of spiraling yesterday. We saw in the episodes him pushing the guys, trying to push his agenda on Santina a little bit. Same thing with Kuzi, and it just seems to me that Santina is the type of person where if you come to her trying to tell her what to do, she's going to do the opposite, just to spite you for trying to tell her what to do. Again, this is just kind of a little bit of speculation that I'm going with, but those are the things we know for certain. Anika, Dan, and Renee are up for nomination. We think if you're watching, you can kind of see. It sounds like Ty might be playing in the veto. I don't know who that 5th person playing in the veto is. How it's going to work this year. The dead last person doesn't get to pick anybody, but the 2 nominees will get to pick somebody for veto. It sounds like Ty was chosen. Maybe it was just more he was asked by people to play in it if they get the chance. I don't know for certain, but it sounds like Ty might be in the veto competition. After that, let's jump into what actually happened and kind of break down some of the segments here and kind of explain how we came to some of those conclusions. First off, we started with a yoga class led by Vanessa. It was, I think, Dan and Daniel who were involved in that. Nothing really too special there. Hope, who we talked about yesterday, was having a rough time in there, was kind of spiraling, needed to be talked down by the guys of like, relax, stop doing too much. You're making yourself a target when you don't need to be. He was kind of talking to JM just about how he's feeling, and it seems like he might be even a little homesick. It sounded like he wasn't going to tell people he was in a relationship outside the house, but he talks to JM about how he misses his girlfriend. It's why he didn't kiss Shania last night, which apparently that was a thing that almost happened. So he's just talking about how he's having a rough time. We'll continue to see that in just a bit. Anika ended up having a talk with Zach. Listen, if you watch these dailies, it feels like it's the Zach show. He's on there all the time. It feels like he's kind of running the house. Will he eventually get caught with this? I'm not so certain, because it does seem like, yes, everybody realizes what he's doing and how he's doing it. but they're okay with it, it feels like, right? Like, it seems like more people trust Zach than they are doubting his intentions. Feels like they kind of know what he is and they can see it, and because they can see it and he's so open with it, feels like they trust him more because of that. I don't know. It's really kind of interesting. And honestly, of all of the players so far, he's been by far the most impressive one that we've seen in the house, at least from the clips on the show, things that he's going to be saying here that we're going to break down. It all just sounds good, right? Like everything he says sounds like the right thing. He's crushing it. He's crushing it right now. Will it catch up to him? We'll have to see. But him and Anika, they're having a conversation. This is where we actually found out that Anika was put on the block. She was kind of talking to him about like, hey, like, can I trust Hope? Again, Hope, like, causing himself issues. Can I trust him? And Zach's like, do you trust me? If you trust me, like, trust me. We're gonna have Hope. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Is he lying to her? I don't know. I honestly don't know if he's just, blowing smoke for Anika, and maybe she is the one that they're going to try and evict if they can't backdoor somebody. This is where we just kind of have to guess. But again, it kind of seems like there's trust there, at least from one end of it. Another kind of interesting thing here is Zach mentioned how he's like, yeah, like everybody keeps talking about the boys, the boys, the boys. I'm working with the boys, but he's like, I I don't want to do that. He's like, you can see I'm trying to talk to you a lot. I'm trying to work with a lot of different people. And the one thing that was kind of interesting, it seems like, because in past seasons, you usually got to pick your bedroom, which bedroom you wanted to sleep in. The only other time I could think of where they didn't get to pick was when they were actually put into two teams. That was BBCan9, and Tina and Kiefer ended up being captains. They had to pick teams, and the two teams slept in their own bedroom. Normally you get to pick, and that's actually a big thing where depending on what bed you choose, there's usually going to be the people you end up working with, especially early in the game, because when are those conversations going to happen real easily at night and you've got everybody in there? What about during the day? It's like there's no reason to be in another bedroom, but you can all go to your bedroom and nobody's going to think twice. So it's definitely interesting that they didn't get to choose it. And I say that because it sounds like all the guys might be in the same bedroom. Maybe not all of them, but a good amount of them are all in the same bedroom. So I don't know if they just split it guys and girls. If it just so happened that somebody like, Zach was put in there with Ty, Roberto, and maybe Hope. I don't know if Jonathan's in there or not. Maybe Daniel. Again, I don't 100% know who's in what bedroom. But it is interesting that they split it up that way. After that, we ended up having Zach and Hope have a conversation where Zach talks about like, being the point man. Hope even calls him like the point guard of the team. And he's like, yeah, I know I'm out there and I'm getting a lot of that focus, but I'm doing that for us as a group. So again, trying to kind of solidify this guys group that's going on. Meanwhile, trying to tell other people outside the alliance that it's not happening, which is also why I have a theory on what could be happening as well, but we'll get to that when it's more speculation. One other thing that was funny, I say funny because when I was first watching this, I originally thought, wait a minute, does Zach not know to remember his days? Because Hope brings up that he's been studying the days, and Zach's like, huh? He's like, yeah, like what days, what happened, like who won on this day and what happened on this day. And Zach kind of was like, oh no, like what? So it seemed like he was pretending to not know because we did get a little inside baseball. I was actually watching the dailies over on Kick with a good buddy of mine, Bruno, aka Capone Gaming. Check him out on kick.com/Capone Gaming. We were watching the dailies when they've been coming out pretty much around like midnight last night, and it was a pretty good time hanging out. Emmett, who actually knows Zach, Emmett from BBCan1, he did say, he's like, no, like Zach knows that if you're somebody who's in there studying all the time and being pointed out, that's a bad thing. That said, there was also another moment where Zach was kind of studying in front of everybody, but maybe that was just him saying like, oh, I learned a new thing today. It's hard to tell again because we only get so much of these feeds. We then got a conversation with Renee and Roberto, kind of having a chat in the library. This is when we found out about Claudia getting the insurance because they talked about her being exempt. They were talking about like what their plans for Vito would be and what they kind of hope happens. Renee was just saying that, you know, if she wasn't on the block, she'd probably just vote out Anika. So I don't 100% know who the real target is. It sounds again like Anika might be that initial one that if a backdoor can't happen, it's going to be Anika. But again, I have another little theory on what would maybe be a good strategy for the boys as well. Once again, that's where we learned about Claudia's and the insurance. We then got Kuzi and Ty having a little chat again about hope. And they were like, is he somebody we can trust? And Ty's like, yeah, I think so, but I don't tell him much. Eventually, Santina joins them, and they ended up talking about who she would pick for Slop, which Ty kind of volunteered for if that she has to pick somebody. But they were like, well, we don't want to give all the guys on Slop because we need your strength. It's interesting to me that they're Slop because I thought maybe they were going to get rid of it. BBCan10 barely had any Slop that really was going on. And there's no have-not room this year. So the only thing that they're going to be taking away is food. It's just going to be the Slop. And I feel like slop for slop's sake feels pointless in Big Brother anymore. To me, it was always a lot more special and would add like cracks that can form in alliances and with groups in the house when they would do actual food competitions where you just randomly break up the house into separate teams and then they have to compete for, you know, specialty food. If you didn't win, you ended up on slop. And you'd have to try and get better food items and things like that. I remember there was one they did in Canada where like people were spinning on a wheel and they had to throw different types of foods like, oh, we want the frozen pizzas, we want steak. And they had to throw those things at the target. And if they hit, they would get those things. If they missed, they wouldn't get those things. But just in general, when you make it more of an actual competition, you then kind of get some resentment that can build, right? Like if you're on the losing team, and I'll just throw a name out there, JM's on your team and you felt like JM didn't pull his weight and that's why you lost, you're going to then be pissed off at JM and you're not going to want him in the house anymore. Even if you were working with him, you're like, I just can't stand JM. He lost us that food competition and now I'm miserable. It's those little things that maybe can change the game up a little bit. But when you're just doing slop for slop's sake and then making the HOH just pick somebody for slop, a lot of times they're like, well, look, we just know you have to choose somebody, so they take it or they volunteer, and it ends up being pointless. So I don't know. Maybe at this point, just get rid of it. Daniel made an appearance on the feeds, a very short appearance. We've had maybe 4 hours of feeds and 3 minutes of Daniel. He's been invisible on these things. And 2 of those minutes that we saw Daniel, he was doing yoga and cleaning his room. The other minute was this short conversation we saw with Zach, where he actually tells Zach, he's like, listen, I don't think going for the strong guys is, you know, a good thing. Because if you go for the strong players, who do you end up with? The like kind of smart, well-liked ones. And Zach's like, oh, I totally agree. Listen, can you go tell Santina that? Which is brilliant, right? Because it lets Zach kind of agree with Daniel, show he supports him, and then also can get Daniel to kind of go to Santina so he can be like, I don't want to be in Santina's ear all the time, right? Like, and I don't want people thinking we're, I'm in her ear all the time and talking to her. So if like you go do it, that kind of builds things with you guys too. So like Zach's doing this great job where I'll tell you right now, it just kind of clicked with me what it reminds me of. Derek from BB16. Derek did this great thing where he would have a conversation with you and he would have a plan himself on what he wanted to accomplish in that conversation. He would then have you walking out of that conversation thinking that you came up with the idea. And I remember distinctly watching him have a conversation with Caleb in like the little room. And he's like, yeah, I think we should do this. And then Caleb's like, I don't know. And then they go back and forth a little bit. And by the end, Caleb goes, you know what I think? I think we should do this. And Derek says, that's a good idea. Caleb walks out and Derek gets exactly what he wanted from the beginning. And it feels almost like Zach does a really good idea, a good way of like encouraging people with their thoughts that he agrees with and discouraging the thoughts that he doesn't agree with. We saw that with JM yesterday, where JM was kind of like saying like, oh, if I win the veto, I'm definitely going to use it on Dan. And he's like, you can't do that because then it makes it seem like you guys are in an alliance. Meanwhile, he does the opposite here with Daniel, where Daniel says something he agrees with. He says, I love it. You should go share that with the HOH. And it's really fascinating to watch him do this. And again, I think he's maybe the most impressive player we've seen in the house so far. After that, though, so yesterday we got with the dailies, it was about 2 hours and 33 minutes or so of the feeds, you can call them, right? Footage that we got to watch. Last night we got about 2 hours and 22 minutes, right? So we've gotten about 4 hours, 55, give or take minutes, right? Seconds, whatever. We've gotten about that much time of feeds. Like I said, we've only had Daniel on there for maybe 3 of those minutes. 50 minutes of the digital dailies. Almost a third of this one, a fifth total of all the dailies that have been released over the past 2 days. 50 minutes was dedicated to a game of Werewolf. If you don't know what Werewolf is, it's kind of like one of those social lying games where there's like a almost like an Among Us type thing where there's like a hidden imposter or AKA a werewolf, and the group has to find who's the werewolf killing people off at night. And listen, when I watch these dailies, I want to watch them play Big Brother. I don't want to watch them playing Werewolf. On top of that, this was a nomination day. You're telling me there wasn't 50 minutes of game talk of pre and post noms of what's happening? You're telling me you're just going to save that all for the episode? What are we doing? I understand saving stuff for the episodes, but at this point, why even have these? If you're going to have a whole 50 minutes dedicated to a game of Werewolf on night number 2, I can even understand like later in the game, weeks down the line, when things are a little bit slower, they're a lot less chaotic, we kind of know what's going on. Maybe you have to fill it, right? There's like a random Wednesday when there's nothing that happened in the house. They're just waiting for eviction. So they played a game of Werewolf, and that's what the daily is. I'm okay if it was that. We're on night 2. Night 2 of the dailies. And that much of it was dedicated to a game inside of a game that has no importance at all. I want to be positive about these. I want to give them a chance, but this is really bad. It was really bad. A full almost hour of nothing. Stuff that was pointless. Why? You had all day, 24 hours inside that house. 48 if you count the other days. And this is what we get. It's really crazy. It's really crazy how that's turned out here. But it's what we got. It's what we got. It's what we have to live for this year, and they better step it up. You know what it feels like? It feels to me like they do not care about these dailies whatsoever. They found an intern in the editing department and went, you do these. And I know they can do better because they have a world-class editing team. BBCan edits on a way higher level than BBUS. Look at, I talked about in the premiere episode, the opening package, how amazing it was. You look at any of the years of Big Brother, they always are doing these really cool graphics and edits to their show. They can do better. So why do you have your worst editor, the intern, doing these? Because these dailies, they don't have like a cohesive story. They're random little clips that are just kind of thrown together. Sometimes they're like 3-second clips of nothing, where it's like 2 people just kind of putting clothes in a bag, and then it immediately switches to something else. What are they doing? If you gave me 24 hours of footage, I could come with a 2-hour story that's compelling. What are you doing? Have beats to it. You can have filler in there as well. Start with an idea, have kind of a midpoint where things kind of switch up, and have a conclusion. You don't even necessarily need a finished conclusion. Have an open-ended one where it keeps people wanting to come back for the next daily. It's not that hard, but it feels like they don't care. And that's what bothers me the most. I just don't understand how they couldn't find a different 50 minutes to put in there other than this game of werewolf. I just I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And it feels like they're just trying to get people to forget about the feeds, forget about the dailies, watch the show, which of course, but part of it is we watch the feeds and it gets us to want to watch the show. Why are they doing it this way? I wish I had answers for you, but it is what it is. We had one last little chat that was kind of game worthy and worthy of mentioning here. It was Jonathan and Shania. They were up in the bedroom. Shania was folding some clothes. Jonathan was doing something, which then made me think that Jonathan wasn't in the all guys room. So maybe it isn't all guys, all girls, and it's just like mostly guys with mostly girls, and that's just how it was randomly split. I don't know. But they were both kind of just chatting, kind of they're still trying to feel everybody out. They like everyone, everybody's getting along so well, so it makes it kind of easy right now. But also, I guess, hard for Santina because she has to nominate people, and it's just it's a thing. But as far as official alliances, both of them say they haven't heard of anything kind of official. Jonathan may just be lying flat out unless he's not really as much with the guys as I thought. Maybe they haven't made it like official. They're just kind of talking about working together. I don't know. Again, there's lots of just speculation and guesswork. One more thing I wanted to talk about is just a little idea I had, right? As I'm kind of looking at how things are in the house, and it's just something that if I was in there, this is maybe what I would try and pull off. If I were the boys, it doesn't seem like they're too tight with Dan. Dan seems like, yeah, they would like him maybe as a number, but obviously they weren't too worried about him going up on the block because they figured they would have the numbers for him. And he seemed okay with going on the block. Maybe you just cut Dan. If you cut Dan, you can then say, oh, well, see, look, us guys, like, we just know we don't want to send just any girl home, right? Like, we're okay if Anika goes, right? Or Renee, if that's what, the HOH wants to do. But maybe we just send Dan. Because if you send Dan, that might tell the rest of the house, hey, you don't have to worry about us, right? The guys aren't working together. He's like a sacrificial lamb. Throw him into the fire, and that will maybe stop the people from thinking there's this big guys alliance going on, even though he maybe wasn't necessarily in it the whole time. But again, this is just kind of me speculating because of how I'm not 100% sure where Dan's loyalties lies, which then also brings us, I will show off here, kind of a newer, fresher alliance chart. It's a little bit more clear on some stuff, but there's still a lot that I'm confused about. Mainly, I got the nominees down there, Anika, Dan, and Renee. I'm also not sure where their loyalties lie. All of them have been told they've been saved by different people. All of them have been having some different game talks. Probably Anika is the one who's having the least amount of game talks with people, as far as you can tell. Shania and Daniel don't really know where they're at, but it does kind of seem like they lean towards working with the guys. Not sure. Santina and Zach, I have them close together because that's like the only one that I see Santina talk a lot of game with, and really kind of be open about it. So I don't know if she's got other stronger bonds in the house and working relationships, but it seems like that's maybe the closest one going on. We also have Kuzi, who's pretty close to Ty. Both of them seem to talk a decent amount of game. We saw that even on the episode. Claudia. So Claudia, I wish I had like a line I could put. There's a bit of a budding showmance with Claudia and Ty. Nothing serious just yet, but I think there's been some flirting going on. Ty talked about it yesterday in the dailies, how Big Brother was knew what they were doing, putting them in here together. They were kind of sitting close onto the couch there, so it's interesting to see how that's going to develop. Vanessa, not really sure where she lies as well. I think she's kind of close with Kuzi. I think she works with Claudia a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure. John Michael is the one who I think is kind of on his own. I really don't know how many people are really trusting him right now. Same with Hope. It feels like Hope is kind of just digging himself a hole with everybody. And other than Dan, Hope would maybe be the one that I could see the boys cutting loose, just because he's detrimental to their game long term. Uh, but yeah, this is kind of where I see things right now. Again, this is kind of developing, me reading between lines, trying to do some guesswork. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Were you as disappointed with the daily today that I was? Let me know. Also, who you liking, who you hating, who you wish would be nominated. What did you think of the nominees? Who do you think of these nominees will be going home? Let me know all of that in the comments down below. You can also find down there links to my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, where you can join the conversation, watch the streams over there, and all that going on. Also, once again, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, smash that like button, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video, you never miss a stream. I hate Werewolf. See you guys.